a Hanamura time period.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll just dive right into it. And I'm going to lead.
That sounds great.
Yes, I'm a lead with John Jagger.
Oh no!
Yes, the Six Whopper, the hell of a hooker, and local tasty boy, John Jagger.
These are all titles I wear with pride.
You became our tank over time. What is on your roster for the team?
Oh man, my roster is kind of crazy because I did so many roles in the early days, and then finally it was just like, what if we put him on tank and just let him go? So I kind of consider within that, I would say Artanis, Diablo, Stitches, Leoric, Muradin, Very, and Johanna. I'm gonna just name all the tanks in the game, and we'll just call that my roster.
No, but you led there with like your strong ones, and in fact, it even has like an engage atmosphere. You pick the picks.
Yes, that is the role I very much like to play, because I think what I've learned in my time playing this game is that I am the person who you throw a ball at and then goes, what? And then gets hit by the ball. Like, the reaction isn't great on that end. I don't see somebody do something and react well to it. But if I'm the one throwing the ball, it's great. It's fine. There's no problem there. So that's kind of where I've found that I like to be.
I think that's well said. I remember a traumatic time period where we had you exclusively on Varian for our Wombo combos, and it was a tough time. And I remember we also put you on Vala for an exit. Though you are responsible, I think, entirely across the entire Heroes meta for bringing in Leaping Strike Lunara.
Yeah, that's true. You kept telling me not to do it, and I kept doing it anyway.
And then it rocked. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I've been our Nazebo, I've been our Sylvanas, I've done Butcher and Vala and Lunara. I even have been the Ariel when you and Kristen Cho'Gall. So I've kind of been all over the spectrum, but I think Engage Tank is definitely kind of my happy place.
So when we started, you were in silver. We're kind of a rainbow group across all the leagues. You were in silver.
Yeah.
What was it like improving in the tank role, and what do you feel like kind of put you over that edge?
I think it was the coordination. I think when I played solo or with smaller groups, I think I still played a lot of the ways that I do now. And I was sort of that guy that dives in and blows up and goes, well, where was everybody? Why was nobody here with me? So the increased coordination certainly helped. Being able to actually notify the team of your intent, and also to build that rapport of, there's a body language. You all tend to know when John's hungry and looking for business, because I can hear it without me even saying it. You just see my character's body language and you think, oh, he's going for a hook. He's about to dive them. He's about to go for a swap. Like, it doesn't seem to catch you all off guard, whereas, take the team away and everybody else goes, what is this guy doing? We weren't ready for this. What is this all of a sudden?
I'm excited about this. As we go through everybody, I feel like it's going to be like an online quiz. Which role are you? Does this personality match who you are in the game?
Yeah.
So
what color are you?
Well, speaking of that voice, let's move on, because what are we without our heels in a group? The bartender, the warning whooper, and the master of shapes, Scott Johnson.
Yeah, it's I'll tell you what, when I started playing with this team, some of whom I played with a lot in other casual ways, but when we started doing this more coordinated effort, I didn't think I'd end up in the healer role, like, at all. In fact, when we started, I want to say it was mostly a lot of Kristen healing, and I played a lot of Jaina and a few other characters that were sort of my mains, and it was kind of rare for me to heal. But it started to click for me for a couple of heroes, and it also just started to click team comp wise. Like, I think it's just a strong place for me to be within this particular group. That isn't to say once in a while I can't fiddle around with an assassin or do something interesting with Nazebo or some other character, but for for good or bad, and I think for good, I have found, similar to what John said, a kind of timing sense with the healers, with various support characters that feels like it's benefiting the team in a way that I don't feel when I play them solo. There's an intuition and kind of I know where someone's headed, so I know what I need to do to be there for them, to shore things up in the back line, whatever. That's kind of unspoken and kind of hard to describe. It just sort of happens and it feels good. And for whatever reason, I ended up there, and I like it. I like where I'm at with support, and I probably of all of us took the biggest jump in ranking up to gold, which I hadn't been anywhere near gold for a long time.
Yeah, when we started out, you were in the bronze kind of the rainbow.
Yeah, not really blown anybody's mind with my nuanced play, but what ended up happening was finding that role or settling into the kind of support role and finding my place there has been kind of a revelation in the game. It's actually the place I prefer to be when I'm playing with a team, regardless of who that team is now. And I don't like healing in other video games. It's never been my bag. Not interested at all in it. In something like World of Warcraft or other MMOs, just not a thing I'm into. So, color me surprised in a few ways, and one of them is that I actually enjoy healing people. I think it's great. It feels good. It feels like I'm actually doing something meaningful. And even in a lost game, I can look at, stuff healed, or in the case of a lot of Stukov play these days, how much silence I'm providing and other things. It just feels great to be able to contribute in a way that isn't necessarily I got the most kills or I was, the most daring frontline guy ever, but I gave us kind of a foundation that we could play on that was safer than it would have been if I wasn't there. So yeah, it's kind of hard to describe it, but it's totally unexpected that I ended up there, and I'm totally happy that I did. I like it a lot.
What is your exact kind of what's your main three, your roster? Because you do have a unique set of heroes.
Yeah, I have. I've bounced around a little bit. My favorite, by a pretty long mile, is Stukov. He's my favorite character in the entire game, but I really like him in a support role, and I like how versatile he is. I like that he provides all kinds of other harassment and game-making opportunities that aren't tied necessarily directly to his healing, but he can also clutch heal with the best of them and create some real opportunities for withstanding certain fights and poke outs and things like that. So I really like him a lot, but it's kind of been a bounce between him, excuse me, Morales, Lily, and often Malfurion, although in his current incarnation, I'm kind of having a disconnect with him. I don't really like the way he works now. I didn't love the way he used to work, but at least I felt like I had a lot of utility with him before, and now I feel like we'd mentioned this on our show, but there's just a lot of maintaining cooldowns and paying attention to math that I don't want to pay attention to in our fights and in our setups and stuff. So I'm just not as interested in him as I used to be, but those are kind of my main go-tos. Lucio I really like as well. I think he's more map dependent in terms of whether I want to play him or not, but he's interesting. But yeah, I feel like I have not the broadest roster of characters that I'm constantly pulling out, but I'm very happy with where I'm at with each of those names I just gave you.
I think Deckard also kind of works in that pile of characters that can be creative while supporting, whereas Malfurion, even Rhaegar, their mana management, their watching the cooldowns is just so mechanical that it's restricting.
Sure. Yeah, he's very utilitarian, and I like that about him. I waffle back and forth on him a little bit because I feel like his healing is so weird and currently nerfed a little bit that it just feels a little funky to throw a bottle and hope you hit the dude. And if you didn't, well, you hope the guy takes a second and walks over the bottle or backs up the other way and hits it on his way out, or trying to think ahead of what other players are doing and their way they're moving, or where they might be in a second, or where they may draw back to, and being able to give them a place to find some heals and then make sure there's enough for everybody. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with his healing that I don't know. I still don't know if I love the way that's all handled, but his crowd control and CC and just general harassment with the rest of his kit in the scrum of a fight is pretty awesome. And I should say, this is actually something I'm really glad Blizzard seems to be doing. I'm anxious to see what this new hero they announced today will be like, if she is indeed support. We don't know that for sure. But I like the tendency toward these kinds of mechanics and less dependence on, oh, I need to heal you. My Q is some sort of heal. Here's some healing. Instead, it's sure there's healing or there's some kind of, you know, sustaining of your teammates and yourself, but there's also this other stuff, and there's a real focus on that other stuff. I think Kerosene was the first real example of that happening in the game, and I think the healers since then, with the exception of maybe Morales, they've all sort of adhered to that. But at the same time, I kind of like Morales's dependence on that. I kind of like that she is that focused on just being a heal machine, because it kind of makes her unique in that one regard, and everyone else is kind of weird. I like that approach. So I'm hoping that the future of healers continues to, you know, be more in the multi-utility sort of range and less in the just I'm here to heal you sort of thinking.
On with great hats.
Yeah, and great hats. Good hats are on their way is my feeling about today's announcement.
There is another required spot on every team, and that would be the Minister of Camps, the map manager, the lead objective correspondent, Kristen Ashton. What is on your roster for all these mighty jobs?
Well, let's see. It was Illidan. It was Sonya for a time. I've played Muradin. There was Brightwing for a little bit. Lily. Jaina's been fun. But mostly a lot of Illidan and Sonya.
So, I mean, what you basically laid out there is a lot of different stuff. But you manage all of our camp timings for our team. You're also the first one to every objective because you usually have the clear for it, like Sonya or Illidan, just to get in there and get it done. What has it been like being so... I mean, you didn't mention Sylvanas, one of your favorites. Like, what has it been like being so pushed around by the meta for this job?
Let's not forget Murky, too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not forget Murky, guys. It's fun, kind of, right? Because I feel like I start to get bored with the character, but then everything changes and the character doesn't even matter anymore. And so now I get a new character to learn, even though the learning beginning part is always really hard.
Now, you started out in our silver role and have also climbed to gold. Edge of platinum, even. What advice do you have for people out there who want to be that merc grabber?
Don't be so selfish. Because I feel like with grabbing mercs, it's so nice because you're off by yourself. You're walking through this woodland. There's some little birds. Maybe there's a squirrel. There's definitely a pig on Cursed Hollow, and she's got her little babies. And you know, you're grabbing a camp and you're having a good time. And oh, what's that? There's some dings up top. Doesn't matter to you because you're grabbing camps. And maybe if the enemy team isn't paying attention, you can sneak one of their camps. Learn the timing, learn to pop them right before the objective or right as the objective is going if you can. But the most important thing is to learn when to team fight. And I still struggle with this. I don't want to. But Illidan's helped, right? Because you have the hunts. They're like, Kristen, where are you? We need you. And I can go, oh, it's sort of global. I'm there. But learn to join your team when it's time for a team fight. That's the most important thing you can do on top of managing the mercs.
Now, this isn't a quiz, but is there any certain timings that you really look for on the clock or on the map?
My ideal situation is when you can overload the enemy team. They're not ready for someone who's just grabbing mercs left and right, because while they're dealing with something bottom lane, say you could go top, grab their top as fast as you can, and suddenly you're really starting to put this pressure on. And as long as the main four are awesome, which you guys are, so many times I'm like, should I go back? And then 2 dings go off because 2 enemy heroes were killed. And I'm like, well, just keep going then. So as long as your core 4 is totally rocking it, you could just have fun. Try to steal enemy camps. Maybe even try to go for a boss if you've never done that before. It feels great to provide pressure the enemy team can feel while the other team members are providing pressure that the enemy team has to address faster than the incoming merc push.
Anything map dependent for you in this job?
Anything map dependent?
Yeah, do you got like you must-haves for certain maps?
Oh, must-have heroes for certain maps?
Yeah.
No, there's so many counters nowadays. It's really hard to say if there's a specific hero. Now there are build choices definitely based on maps. Like Muradin. Last night I got to play a lot of Muradin, and that was a lot of fun. And his talent, level 1 talent, is something I switched between based on if there were going to be lots of team fights or if there was going to be a lot of time to back up, get a faster second wind heal, a bigger second wind heal, and go back in, or if you're going to be in team fights a lot more because it's a smaller map and so you just are going to farm those hammers.
There is also later drafts. People who don't meet the mold all the time. Passionate people. And I'd like to introduce the secret agent, the worth it warmonger, the whimsical filler, Beau Schwartz.
Hello, Kyle.
How would you describe what you do for the team?
I guess, your description pretty much nailed it. I spend a lot of time playing the game, and I can kind of play everything, and I think I've got a pretty strong sense of macro. And I've got somewhat uncontrolled aggression, but I'm a student of controlled timed aggression, so I just feel like if I can be invisible but be everywhere I need to be and make the observations that I need to make, I'm doing my part for the team, because I'm sort of trying to support or fill in for your most excellent shot calling, which, most of the time you're taking the lead on. And you should just see the product of my labors and not me. Except you'll hear me grumble when I die, because my favorite thing to do is to kill, and the thing I like the least is to be killed.
It's a good trait. I certainly enjoy it when we send you off to solo lane and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So when
I like to provide that ding if I'm in a solo lane to win that lane too. I like to crush it in the game.
And I think you said something really important to this role of Phil is that you just play a lot and you know a lot of different heroes.
So the thing I'm always espousing, and this is only practical if you have the time for it, but is you need to play all heroes, even the ones you don't like, because the best way to beat them isn't picking a good hero. It's understanding when you're playing that hero that you're against, knowing what you hated when you were playing that hero and what you felt like when you had the advantage or you're pressing your advantage. And that's information you can use in turn to understand things like timings. Like, it sucks to be Jaina when everything's on cooldown. So when you're on the opposite end of a Jaina, let her, bait out her stuff and then get in her face. Tracer, that's the time to go in as Tracer, not when Kona Cold is up, but when you see it get used. And I know, being on the receiving end of it, that it's bad. And it's not enough to play 1 or 2 games. I've got pretty much the entire heroes roster at least above 15. Got about 7 more heroes to go. So putting a considerable amount of time in is just my philosophy there. And that makes me a fill agent, because all the heroes are different and they're different puzzles, and there's no way anyone's going to be good at all the heroes, but having a wide vocabulary is a good skill to be a generalist. So I bring that.
When you are filling in one of these later picks, the bands have come through and messed with maybe something you were passionate about at the time or just a new hero you wanted to play, what are you looking to capitalize on in that draft?
As a late pick in a draft?
Yeah.
The first thing is what is easily a hard counter, like something that doesn't require a lot of ability with a hero. So there are some heroes that are considered counters to other heroes, but you'd have to have proficiency with it, right? So if there's an easy counter, then I'll take that. Or moreover, not a counter to a specific hero, but something that counters a strategy. They got a lot of melee, I can play Malthael. They have, if they're very squishy and I need mobility, then I can, Genji never makes it to the end of the draft, but like having an ability to play a wide variety of heroes allows me to look at what the strategy of the enemy composition is and pick accordingly.
when someone wants to crush it, outside of knowing the other heroes, like what sort of moments in the game do you pounce on the most?
What sort of moments? You mean like where I feel the most dopamine rush?
Yeah.
when I'm chasing that white. It's not a white horse. That's a different thing. But the horse of dopamine, the dopamine horse.
The Whitemane.
When I'm chasing the dopamine horse, I mean, really, what I'm looking to do is outsmart the player. I guess is to prove that I'm more intelligent than them at the game ultimately, and so it's a little bit less about having a flashy kill and more about just obtaining the kill. I mean, I'm not sure what you're getting at. Right now, what I'm working on is I'm trying to work spraying into my kills. So there's a spray mechanic in the game where you can spray on the ground, and it's fun and all. But when you really need to do it, it's all about timing. Like you discipline a cat or a dog, you can't go to them 5 hours later and discipline them. Have to get them in the moment. So I'm working cat discipline into the game. So when I get the kill, I immediately spray. So I've remapped my spray button to my left. On my mouse, I have a left thumb button. And I'm trying to work in when I get a kill to make sure to spray. Is it BM? Maybe. But if I get in their head, sure. I think poor behavior BM is B-stepping. But just that one subtle word that breaks a person. That's fair game. And they put it's in there. So I have the Lunara LOL spray. I think that's triggering enough. So that's what I'm working on right now. So it makes me feel a little good to make someone else feel a little bad. And if that makes me a bad person admitting it, okay. But that's what I'm working on.
Oh, I think that's great. Your answer could have been that I watch videos all day and I train left click, right click, left click, target, A moves. But you want to know more heroes, you play more, and you want to get a little psychological with them. So, final question for you in this category anyway: when is it worth it?
What is it? Oh, I feel like the answer's supposed to be always worth it. It's always worth it. It's always worth it.
All day, every day.
I just want to inject one quick thing. One of the things I've gained from playing with Beau all this time is a better feeling for when it's appropriate to kind of rub the other team's face in a little bit. It's never been mean-spirited with Beau. I don't know why the lights just went out.
I did that.
I'll fix that in a second. but that's the thing that and balancing that with his kind of more zen take on, oh, it's fine, everybody, don't worry about it. Just ignore that guy. Let's get back to it, especially in quick matches. There's a real balance to that, and I think Beau's emblematic of how to find that balance. And I've actually learned how to be better at that, I think, by hanging out with him, playing with him.
I mean, trying to be
anonymous
better.
Source with information.
I'd like to thank the glowing pair of headphones for that glowing compliment. But that's the thing that's often, I get emotional and tilted just like everyone else, but it does nothing to improve your game. So I've played a lot of poker. I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering. You learn that your thinking is compromised by all emotions, basically, good and bad. And I think once you've come to understand that and you get in the habit of playing that way, it seems like I'm a Zen person, but I get those feelings and I've just, through habit, learned how to, fight through them. I think that it's a journey we all take playing competitive games.
Well, and with Kristen, it's a calculated risk. We got to maybe sneak that Merc camp, but it's based on information. Whereas you have the great ability to bounce back very quickly from a mistake, not let you get it down, because you have to take those risks. That's why you're the secret agent.
Right. Yeah. And again, risk is such a weird thing, right? Because oftentimes I find a lot of, in the heroes community at large and in games, a lot of the advice is very cautious. But at some point, a trigger's got to be pulled. And we've all seen those pro games where everyone's dancing and no one's making a move. And we've been in those games. At some point, you've got to make a move. You can't wait forever. And your move is never going to... A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. And you just need to get over it. If someone makes a bad move or makes a call, you pull the trigger. Everything's... Game is a series of decisions tied to probabilities. And when you put a timer on it in a very physical game like Heroes, as opposed to something where it's turn-based, you got to accept that, that's the decision made, and there'll be more decisions as long as you're playing games. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
Now, this next question I'm going to throw to three of you at the same time. We're going to take that little risk here. But I am so, let me just say, blessed to be playing with people who want to take the solo lane, and we do not all hang out in the middle forever. And you guys willingly break off. And this is Kristen, Beau, and John. What advice would you have to people, and maybe even on just your favorite solo laner, to win that lane?
To win the solo lane.
Yeah.
The first is know your opponent. Again, tops. If I'm, this came up on core, but a good example was I picked Chen and Dahaka, and I wasn't aware at the time that this was a not as controversial a pick as one might think on Braxis. And I'm gonna hold, but I know I'm gonna hold the point for it. He did 0 damage to me. In only time he was able to do damage when the Genji rotation came up. But I'm Genji, I can jump to the lane, get back to the towers, and I'm safe. Never took a death. Indestructible. I know that because I've played Dahaka versus Chen in the opposite matchup. And so knowledge helps you to win the lane. So knowing the opponent, because it matters in a 5v5, knowing what a single hero does matters less than in a 1v1 lane, because that's 100% of your opposition.
Totally. And
To me, that's the biggest thing.
Going off of that, I'd say call for help if you need help. Let people know that you are losing really badly if you're losing really badly. I mean, there's a big difference between letting the lane come to your towers, clearing it, and then it goes back to middle, and nothing was lost, nothing was gained. But if you're losing really badly because it's a poor matchup, either because it's a direct counter pick to what you're up there with, or the person is just outscaling you, call for help from your team. It's okay. They're going to be like, sure, instead of losing the lane, just switch it out. Be flexible. It's okay.
And it's funny because I feel like the biggest lesson I learned was I was too much of a chronic. Like, there's 2 people here. There's 2 people here. 2 people in this lane every time. And we had a game on Braxis where Kyle was just like, just be up there. Don't worry about it. And I was very worried about it for a while. And then we won the game. And it was like, what happened? I just sat up in this lane and panicked for 20 minutes or so. And then we won the game. And what happened was they kept sending a bunch of people to deal with me, which left me in a state. And we had 4 people in the bottom just clean up a tower and then clean up a keep and then move on to the core. And that was it. And so for me, the revolution was to just understand that sometimes you're going to be outgunned. Be smart about it. Look and see what your allies are doing before you start saying, I need help up here. If they're getting good progress down there and you're trading and it's even, let it happen. Just don't die. Don't go running out there. Just, I got to distract them. But, play it safe, play it smart. But if you see you're losing your lane very badly and your team's just, center lane soaking XP, then yeah, maybe it's time to say, hey, can we rotate someone up and get some help up here? Because we're actually now losing this instead of, making any progress anywhere else.
That's an important point and doesn't get brought up a lot, is that you have succeeded in your solo lane if you have 2 people trying to stop you. The rest of the map is emptier because of it.
Yeah.
We also have a special term around here, and you may have heard it on this show, called the happy couple. And the happy couple is a support combo, an indestructible sort of force that lives in the middle of the lane. Often it's John and Scott. Mm-hmm. What would you tell people about the happy couple?
Well, every good couple needs a hand anus, and I bring one.
I
should probably clarify what that is. So I really like, for a couple of reasons, I like that mid lane phase of the fight where we're soaking. We may be jumping up or down to help somebody with something, but generally speaking, it's just very early game and we're trying to get stuff done. They may be a little aggressive, so we go back to towers and we move out a little bit. A heal here and there on John, or sometimes last night it was Kristen a bit with her Muradin. And I like that phase of the game because it feels like you are in a position of gauging what the other team is going to be about for the rest of this match. It's like you're almost in a position of observation. You're not really trying to be aggressive. Your goal is to soak XP, keep an eye on things, notice when no one's in that lane at all, and kind of maybe heads up everybody else that maybe they're going to get ganked or whatever early in the game. But there's not a lot of risk during that period if you're not being stupid, and it just is a good time to kind of get a feel for it. And I think it establishes, for me anyway, it establishes how I'm going to have to behave throughout the rest of the game in terms of reaction to how that other team sees me. So if they've got a chromie and I start getting targeted early in that phase, that's a great time for me to learn, all right, I have got to stay so clear of that chromie at the very least, or maybe at the most, I need to put a nice big hand anus under her while everyone else blows her up. I just feel like that's an educational period of the game, and I always look forward to it and enjoy it. So that's the number one thing. The second thing is, it's also good to see how John, if it's John as an example, since he'll be one of the primary people I need to watch for and keep safe, I like to see how he's doing. And by that I mean trouble. Yeah, is he being really aggressive? Is he not being very aggressive? What's his reaction to what the other team is doing? Even down to what's John's mood, and who am I playing? And if I'm playing a character like, let's say, Deckard Cain, who's throwing bottles in seemingly random ways, that's probably going to be less helpful for him in certain map scenarios than it would be if I was somebody who's directly healing him. So that also determines how I'm going to play the rest of the game. I just feel like that chunk of time is so informative, and it should, in theory, be the most boring part of the game. You just soak XP, you're just kind of moving along, you're waiting for objectives to pop. But instead, I feel like I'm actually gaining a ton of intel that I can then start to implement. It doesn't always work, but I at least get that feeling while I'm in that phase.
I'm sorry, I just gotta interject real quick because I know, but I like that Scott is managing John's mood. Kind of sounds like
somebody needs
the happy couple.
Because
it's like, but we're
John's
hearing from,
not doing it, so
we're hearing from we're hearing about this. One's moody and the other one isn't saying too much. It just has to manage it.
It's not even so much moody. It's like if somebody's killed his Artanis 3 times already because they're targeting him with some kind of weird early game meta thing. I know that what will help him later is that he is well looked after, and I don't mean that it's not needy or like high
make him dinner, to give him a compliment. I mean, it's a combination of things. I want John to be happy, but also I want his character to be happy. If that makes sense. It's a testament to your support play that this is part of it. Like, I mean, we're talking about what buttons do I press. What buttons do I press in what order to be the best? And you're just like, I'm reading the feeling of my teammate and behaving accordingly.
Yeah, and it's not just him. Stuff. Like later on, if somebody, like one of you is playing somebody a little squishy, let's say Kyle's playing a very daring KT or something, and I'm seeing his floppy body fly by a few times because he's been killed because I am spending so much time making sure our tank's okay, whoever's playing it, then it's, I have to kind of change my mode a little bit and go, no, wait a minute, he's too far out then. I got to get closer because he's just going to die in this particular matchup, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, this is all just normal game stuff, and you shift depending on what you're seeing. But for whatever reason, that stuff you're talking about, Kyle, that mid lane early bit is important, weirdly important. And I didn't think it used to be. It didn't used to be important to me at all. But through our team play, I feel like that has become an important part of the game.
Well, and I jokingly gave you the name The Warning Whooper, but when we play without you, we have trouble keeping our support alive because they don't scream. Right. They don't let us know they're in trouble. And they die in some distant land, and we're all like, where did Brightwing go? I don't understand. We never heard the warning call. But also, I mean, last night, you made a call that Kharazim only ever healed himself, and that Tychus was a jerk. And we're connecting those two ideas. We won that game by targeting down Tychus because Kharazim couldn't do a thing about it.
No, he palmed himself every time, and it became, well, I mean, maybe he would have eventually palmed somebody else, but at the very least, whether it was our doing or he's just that way, his pick for an ultimate was going to be a no-brainer. We didn't have to worry about it. We could try not to hit him and then burn him down. I mean, there are opportunities created by it, but it wasn't because he was effectively using it to keep his best people up. And I think we exploited it. It was great. Like that's a good example. I enjoyed the hell out of that kerosene. He was a wiener, big time wiener man.
It was $20. They wouldn't give him $20 for a pawn. But anyways, it's another story.
John?
Yes.
Well, I mean, you were just targeted here, would you? What's
I
your idea of
was.
the happy couple?
So to me, the happy couple, there's a lot of iterations of it. It's not always tank support, but it's usually somebody who will keep something alive that you need to stay alive. And when Scott and I are doing it, it is typically a tank, an engaged tank of some kind, and a support. Well, that's not gonna make any super cool plays by itself, most likely. You might be able to poke a little bit or whatever, but if he and I are hanging out in a lane, odds are, if I'm on Diablo and I get a sick grab and knock him into the cannons and hit, Scott's looking at him like, yeah, but you're healed. Like that guy's gonna walk away. Like nothing's really gonna come of it. But the advantage to the happy couple is all it takes is for us to say, okay, we've cleared this lane. We feel good about it. Let's now go make it a trifecta in the next lane down. And that combo with somebody who's going to do a lot of burst damage suddenly becomes the most instantly deadly thing in that early phase in the game. You have somebody who's just thinking their day is going to be laning, they're safe, there's just this tank healer in the middle not doing anything, and then all of a sudden they're grabbed and they're engaged on and they're dead. And so the happy couple to me is always, it's this thing that moves between the lanes and can make things very effectively happen because you're picking up two typically pivotal roles to go along with your damage. You suddenly make a situation that could potentially be unsafe safe instantly.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
This next question is for everybody. In fact, future questions will all be for everybody from here on out. This is a show that I talk on, and I talk about my shot calling and what I say. As the receivers of the shot calling, what do you guys feel like I say the most? What is helpful and what is not so helpful, maybe?
I don't know if you say it the most, but my favorite is "oh butts." I always, it makes me happy. It kills any tilt I might be feeling. It's just like butts. There we.
That's actually true. I said it the other day, and I was like, "That was a weird thing." Oh, right. I picked it up from hearing Kyle say it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I mean, I was worried that this would be that we just have some opportunities in this interview where it would be time to make Kyle think we're just buttering him up, and so what I'm about to tell you is going to sound like buttering you up, but I actually mean this, and I think it's really important for shot callers, and it's rare, and that is you've got the heart of a coach, and a good coach at that, not a coach who says get out there, kid, and then we come back, sorry coach, I didn't mean to slip and kick it in the other goal. And then have that coach go, you little shit, go away and find your mom. You're in charge of oranges next week, whatever, right?
Oddly specific.
I don't want to be in charge of the oranges.
I used to love oranges when I was playing soccer. But anyway, instead,
What's an orange?
You do what a good coach does, which is, all right, go in, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's an emergency thing, like we need to make a decision now, so let's do this team fight. Be careful on top, blah, 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 blah. You're giving us our marching orders, and we're trying to execute. And often it works, and it's great, and everyone says that was awesome, well done, everybody, and we move on to the next thing. But when it doesn't work, and somebody screws up, somebody gets separated, even if it's just because the other team just really countered us well, there's a feeling in competitive games where you kind of don't want to talk to your leader about what went wrong. Like you're kind of sheepish, like, oh, I'm going to get blamed for this because 3 of you died and I'm the healer. You know, there's, especially, maybe this is mostly coming from a support perspective, but there is that feeling of like, I think that was my bad. And you have a way of saying, yes, that was probably your bad, but that's okay. And this is one of like a million of these we're going to do over the next 4 months. So don't stress about it. In fact, next opportunity, let's try it again. Let's see if we can't fix the way that went down. Like you're good at that. And so I don't have any complaints. I mean, I honestly can't think of any. Like you've never said anything where I went, that Kyle, what a bastard. It's never happened, not even once. So for whatever it's worth, you remind me of coaches I had when I was a kid that understood that it was more important that we were growing, that failure was actually a good thing sometimes. You could use that and learn from it and build on it, and you weren't just embarrassed and humiliated felt like you shouldn't have tried out for the team in the first place. And I think that's important for any team, but even more so in a competitive game like Heroes.
Oh my!
I would agree with that.
It's tearing up. We're gonna need tissue here. I
Yeah.
like when you call out the ults. When you tell us when the ults happen, right before we get into a team fight. And then you're like, go, 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 because that's when I think all of us know it's time to go. And there's a good chance we're going to take this fight.
Yeah, it's like Jaina spent her ring. Go.
Yeah, I would say the thing that I get the most out of is the reminder of, hey, you know, we just won that fight. Maybe we should keep going. Because I am one of those people that's like, yeah, they learned their lesson. They won't be back. You know, you got one person down.
You
You're
got it
like,
once.
they're like, yeah, they're demoralized. That's my victory. I'm gonna walk back over here, and you're like, well, we could keep going. And then it's like, oh, that's right. That is a good idea. We could keep going. So for me, that's the good one. For me, as somebody who listens to Into the Nexus, sometimes you let slip your generic stay positive tips, and occasionally I'll hear that you use them on us, and I'm like, oh man, that was a generic Kyle stay positive tip. Oh, it's rougher than I thought, you guys.
I think the important part of the shot calling and your role in leading it too is that we've been doing this a year now, or we're approaching a year perhaps.
Hanamura, so it's a year and 3 months.
Yeah, year and change.
And we still have a commitment, no matter what mode we're playing, we still have a commitment to sticking to good first principles, even when we're playing casually, get the soak, do the camp things. Like a lot of people and a lot, you know, solo queue casual means a very different thing. It's just push buttons and be present in the game. And so we still sort of stick to staples, practice shorthand, which is sort of one of the things that I think like shot calling, and if you want to call it coaching, is to get people into habits so that you know, things that are hard become habits, and then what's habit becomes beautiful. When all you got to do is say buts, and then we immediately know to use our abilities in this certain sequence, so that there's this play. Like, we don't drill, and I've been in situations where people have tried doing the drill thing and stuff like that. We don't do drills, but there is there's a sense that our communication has become shorthand, and that has freed you up to not have to explain why we're doing a thing. You know, someone, you know, please don't go away from the bot lane. We have to come up here so that we can win the team fight, even though the soak is good. And I just said 2 minutes ago we should be splitting. Now we don't have to explain that as much, and we can focus on other areas. So I find like it's been a good progress, but it hasn't become lax as that's gone on. Where it's I think sometimes if you get into shorthand, then nobody's doing anything. So we're still always sticking to those principles. Now, I will say that I actually have a hard time leaving the mid because I'm usually playing a stacking hero. I think I felt bad yesterday because like every game I would not leave. I would not leave whatever lane was busiest. I was there. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I was supposed to do that, but people tend not to question me, and that makes me feel. You should question me.
Makes you feel powerful and untouchable.
I question Mo all the time, for the record.
Yeah, but I mean, in game, you know, I think there's a certain amount of trust.
But that's true. I mean, that's one of the benefits of being in the organized group is that if you want to stack, if you don't want to play lane Asmodan, you want to play stack Kid Heroes Asmodan, we can make room for that.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is as a player, we did a lot to introduce, but I'm also the bad talent picker. Like, because I'll just tell people to play everything, because I don't believe in going to Reddit and forming your opinions based on what, or even shows like the shows we do, and basing your opinions alone on what other people are telling you. I think you need to find it out for yourself. That's the best way to own knowledge, and you will never get that if you're too scared to do what popular opinion tells you to do. And so I'm going to tell you on the show, on the record, and it might mean you unsubscribe, but Convection is a good talent.
Oh,
and you should be taking it all the time. And I've listened to other content producers who will tell you noobs take it. And I even heard a show the other day. It was like, I'm sick of arguing with platinum players about why Convection's bad or good. It's a good talent. And I know why it's good. And it's not because I'm trying to be a hipster about it. It's because I have reasoning. And we won't get into it because that's going to turn into a 10 or 20 minute thing. But tweet me or whatever. Come at me. Is that what people
Tweet
say?
me, bro.
And Pyroblast is a good talent. I mean, no talent is good 100% of the time. I don't mean to say take, but use your head is what I'm trying to say. So I'm a use your head kind of player, and Kyle gives me room because I know that he has his own opinions, and I think of the two of us, we would be the most. No, I know this is the way you need to play on certain situations. But you've been very good about giving me room to be wrong, because if we are gonna go there, you're the higher ranked person. I should be like, Kyle's number is bigger than mine, so whatever he says, if it trumps my knowledge completely, and you do not understand the game that way. In fact, you pull knowledge from everybody, no matter what their rank are, because a bronze player could have a really good idea that no one else is on about because they found their own little nugget of knowledge, and that's something you appreciate, and I appreciate that about you.
Well, and you for the convection thing, you hearth.
You can't leave it alone, can you?
No,
sorry.
I'm dead serious though. Like what you are saying is basically that every talent is a power spike. I sometimes take a power spike in a direction that the enemy doesn't expect. This flame strike is going to do more damage than the enemy might be prepared for, and you hearth. No. And that's the whole difference. Is you understand when to back. You get your mana. I'm out of mana on convection. That's why we all say don't convect, because when we play it, we have no mana left because we take all the orbs.
Yeah, you got to work that in your timing. Mind you, KT is my highest level hero, so I understand the hero at that level. You are backing at 1 minute in. Burn it all because you are guaranteed to back. Just do it and just work it into your strategy. But I mean, again, that's what I talk about. We talk about you giving me room to be that way because I believe that, every other week there's a thread on Reddit about how convection's a bad talent. And I'm just like, you won't learn enough about the game relying on Reddit or just anyone's information. But and so I'm glad that you allow me room to do that, because John and I got into an argument yesterday about talents on Artan. It's just, I don't think he's wrong, but I know I'm right.
Funny, I feel the exact same way.
Yeah, and that's the way you have respectful conversations, is you just appreciate that everyone has their own genius, and I like that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Is there a strategy or a meta that has been your favorite or your least favorite?
Our favorite strategy?
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun trolling with that dropship business, but I don't think that counts.
No.
It's a
I don't know if that counts.
To be fair, we only did it one night. We haven't returned to it, so we're not monsters.
No, but it was really fun while it happened.
I think my least favorite meta was definitely double support. I did not like double support era. I was not a fan of that. But I think my favorite was, which honestly, it makes sense. I don't play very many support characters. So as soon as all of a sudden you're limiting that pool and you're trying to put more people on it and give other people roles, I'm afraid that I'm going to get put on support. And I had a Lily Butcher game that was fun, and that was the one time I enjoyed it, and that was it. But I think when it was, honestly, I think right now feels really good. Like, as weird as that is to say, like, I feel like we're in a place where there's a lot of heroes I can pick from. We've been doing a lot of quick match recently, so we don't really know what we're going to get map-wise. And there's nobody that I feel like, I can't play the hero I want to play because odds are good that they're just bad and they're not going to be effective. And sometimes you roll a bad comp, but generally speaking, I feel effective on whatever character I pick, at least to some degree.
Yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing about what's happening right now, and it's hard to even call it a meta because I don't know what it is. I mean, it's just, there's certain heroes I'll see John pick and I'll go, ooh, I'm so excited because every time he picks that, good things happen. Or I'll settle on, I oftentimes pick Stukov for the same reason. People think I'm so stuck on him and can't get off of him, but I just want to silence everybody all the time. And team fights, I'm telling you right now, team fights are 1,000 times more fun for me when I can put down a big patty of stop under every foot of everyone in a scrum and have them all go, why aren't my abilities working? Why am I only auto attacking? Oh no, I got to get out of here. It's really satisfying. So for whatever reason, I feel like that's complimenting us a lot. I feel like the characters everybody else is picking is complimenting us a lot. Oftentimes, unless she's playing tank, I don't even see Kristen the whole game until we're having like late game team fights. But I know she's off doing rad stuff that we need. and it's just working really well. Those games you got last night were awesome. They were hard fought. They were really fun. We were smart at points where we needed to be. Like everybody just felt like they were on their game, and that was great. Especially because I had been sick last week and I hadn't played at all, and I felt like I was going to be Joe Rusty, but it worked out. It was great.
My favorite thing about our games is Kristen's always got to make the wrestler entrance into her matches because she's off doing something. So when it's time for the team fight, I'm on my way. I'm coming in. I'm gonna kill everything. It's like it's not even just on Illidan; it's on any hero basically, and it's amazing. I love that actually. It's that Korean. I just came in from the bathroom meta when Thrall was big, and he would be nowhere, and then all of a sudden he'd walk from some weird angle and sunder everything. He's like, Thrall's here. What's going on? I went to the bathroom for 2 seconds. Enough. And
What's great about her doing that entrance that you're talking about, and it does happen. It feels like that, and it's usually Illidan. I have Illidan as my voice pack on every character really right now. Partly because I'm too lazy to go mess around with him, but partly because I really like Illidan's voice pack.
No, Illidan's the best voice pack.
So he is constantly going, well done, hero, and all this kind of thing. And then I got her going, run for the hunt. And it's like 2 Illidans. It's amazing. I love it. It's really exhilarating when one of those fights happens and you come out of nowhere. It's fantastic.
Oh, well, I think my favorite, if I can take us back in memory, well, it's not a meta, but the first time John got that level 20 Entomb, that silence the team was on our core, and Beau, you went down with Genji with your X strike, and Scott, I think you silenced everyone, and we saved our core with a hair of life left, and then we pushed it in and won. That was probably one of my favorite team discoveries. One of those moments where you'd been training for, but you didn't know what you were training for. That was amazing.
Well, of all competitive games of all time, that stands as one of my top 5 easy. That was so good that day.
And that actually is something we trained for. That was our wombo. We struggled for a long time to get wombos into our belt, like mosh pits, followed up by other things that are going to actually matching our shapes. And the filthy tub is what ultimately became kind of one of our signature moves, the Leoric into the Stukov arm. And then whatever X strikes and Jaina blizzards, whatever else we can throw in that tub to make it filthier, became our big move.
The laser games were quite good too.
Oh yeah, every laser was fun.
That was ran into an Entomb with that, right? But it was Phoenix.
Yeah. The only non-laser was the Entomb. Everything else, it's a laser or it's out.
Yeah, we've had some really good Jaina moments. Her Ring of Frost is always great if it hits, but it's also there's some randomness that makes it a little bit unknown. But anytime we're able to successfully sort of lock everybody down and turn the mental tide of a game, I call that a win, even if we end up losing. I love that feeling that the other team is now on their heels a little bit, and we did that last night a couple of times, and that just feels great. Last night we had this, for listeners who care to hear this quick story. Last night there was a Stitches on the other team, and every time I'd throw down Hand Anus, he would dance in it, literally slash dance and just dance in it. And he can take the damage. It's no big deal. Just him, single target, who cares? But he kept doing it, did it 2 or 3 times. And as far as I was concerned, that was like way early projection that, we're jerks and we're going to be this way the whole way. And wait till you see the dance I do at the end when we take your core down. I've never been more motivated in my life to beat a team. And we freaking did it, and it felt great. So all I'm saying is revenge is sweet, and Dancing Stitches can kiss my A if he's listening.
You know what's funny about that is I just realized you almost finally explained what Hand Anus was. At the top of the show, you're like, my Hand Anus. You're like, I'll explain it later. Then we never.
All right, Lurking Arm, for those who are like, what is he talking
Stukov's
about?
E.
Stukov's E. There you go. And I build for it too, by the way, if anyone's wondering. He's a pretty good healer, but I build for that arm, and I just think it's clutch. I love that thing.
What were you gonna say something?
I was, but the Hand Anus thing threw me off. Sure. So, I know what it was. It's fun because it's fun to hang out, to talk about our games, and to just enjoy one another's company, I suppose. But the other thing too, that it was brought up, and I do think it's an area of opportunity that we have to work on because we're always trying to step up our game a little bit. And the one thing I do think is that like I've had the opportunity to play with some teams, and you do see it in HGC, and it's like we all have like take stuns for example, or clutch stuns. The timing on them is what separates a better team, and I'd like for us to start focusing that. And what I mean by that is Uther might have a stun, or he has a stun on his Zeus hammer, and then as say Kale thoughts, you've got your gravity lapse. Well, it can be a little uncoordinated when you both throw it out at the same time, but they're each maybe, let's just say they're 2 seconds. I don't remember their exact timing, but you can chain stuns together and chain not ultimates for the big wombos, but chain like Stukov's abilities. Let's save it and not use it on the minion wave. If we have stitches on our team, save it and use it on the hook destination. And because there's moves that we can do like that. I know we had some pretty good synergy yesterday on Volskaya with the blinds and Cassia against Butcher. That's the only time I was using that blind was to anticipate the Butcher connection on myself or anyone else. And there's a way that you can do that with multiple stun abilities to perma-lock down your target and then kill them. And that's like, I just think that's an area that we can work on. And, if we don't, we don't. But I look forward to exploring that a little more, because we'll own even more face.
Yeah.
Well, and this group has always been very interested in improving, which makes coaching it insanely easy and fun. So as our final question here to everybody, if people out there wanted to build their own team, what would you suggest they look for in players?
Be lucky to be a full-time content podcast creator and run into people who are way better than you and end up on their team. That's my method.
Yeah, but way better doesn't equate to your cup of tea as a personality, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just unless you have something you want to say to me right now, Scott.
Throw down.
I really do. I'm late to MOBAs in general. I'm not Mr. Strategy guy, but this game really sucked me in. And just the fact that I've been able to, very luckily, I think, end up around a group of people who are so into the game and lack all the judgment. If for those who are trying to improve, like myself, like it's just a good, healthy place to get better at it, to play it. And I feel very fortunate and lucky to have gotten that. And it's hard for me to tell people how I did it, because you go back, make the instance. I could make a Venn diagram, just do it over 14 years and say, all right, make these connections, talk to that guy. Hey, John's pretty funny. I should talk to him and do a thing with him. Hey, who's this Beau guy? He's decent. Hey, we should have him into more games. Hey, what if we did a show together? Like, there's all these crazy connections, let alone the ones I have with Kyle from a whole different direction. It's hard for me to replicate that. So that being said, check the forums and get on Discord and let your people know that you're ready to play. I'm terrible at this. This is a bad question for me. Someone else answer it.
I think for me, find people you like to play with first that share common goals. Because the reality is, when we started this, I was like, oh my gosh, but Kyle and Beau are so much better than me. What am I going to do on this team? Like, I'm going to come in and just create a vacuum of suck that they're not going to be able to escape out of, and it's not going to feel good for anybody. And what I learned is that if you play with people you enjoy and you have a good time and you just have fun, you're going to want to play more, and the more you play, the better you get, and the better you get, the more that disparity in skill disappears. Not to mention, if you compared my Hero League play, which doesn't exist, to Kyle's, it's still a Grand Canyon apart. But when we play together, he knows how I play, I know how he plays, and that changes the dynamic a lot too. And so, to me, I think the biggest hurdle is find people that you're going to want to spend a lot of games with. And I was very nervous about the skill level, and what I learned was that quickly that didn't matter. It was just spend time with people you like to spend time with, and that was the ultimate goal.
Yeah, it seems like we're better because of that. Like if I went head to head with Kyle, we would all just have a funeral for me. Like, it's the dumbest idea on the planet. But having us on the same team means that there's positives to latch onto in both directions, regardless of skill level, and it just makes for it's just a better time, man.
Yeah, and pushing off of that even further, in a competitive arena, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose bad sometimes. You're gonna mess up. Team members are gonna mess up, and sometimes nobody can help it because it was out of your hands, kind of a thing. So you really do need to make sure you're with a group of people that even during the losses, it's not that big of a deal. You're not going to be with someone who's going to be yelling in your face because, quote, you lost it for us, kind of a thing, because that's not going to help the group improve. So make sure you really like the people you play with even during the losses, because everyone can be great during a win. That's simple. The hard part is being cool and pushing forward and getting better after the losses.
Well said.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, on that comment about Scott saying be a rad content creator, just invite awesome people. I just want to say, for my part, I just feel like a blessed and lucky individual. I've been listening to your show, Kyle, since number 1, and we had never met at that point. I've never met Scott or anyone else. I met Scott and John and you folks through Into the Nexus, and it's just a matter of finding like personalities. I'm actually, it's a dream come true to be a guest on your show, Kyle, and Garrett, who's not here. Rest in peace. I mean, happy vacation. and so it's just like advice. I'm like, I just feel like I lucked out. Like, you know, when you win the lottery, that like you don't really, hey, lottery winner, give us your advice on making money. And this is like, I'm terrible with money. I just have lots of it. So, you know, I think on that front, but if I were to do it now to put together a fresh team to play regularly with, it's like, you have to find personalities that match yours. And like, not everyone listening is going to be, I would say they might, to be derogatory a bit, but be careberry about it. I've played with teams who will laugh at you at a diamond level in Team League for making a mistake that was an honest mistake, but it's expected to not make mistakes of that caliber. And if that's what you're looking for, then you can find it. It's really, I wouldn't say one attitude is wrong, but you need to find people who match. Because I think the recipe for unhappiness is, in playing this game, would be playing with mismatched personalities like that.
Would you say that it's also a part of like finding similar goals? Because there's a lot of people who play this game that
no, it's a personality.
They're happy with where they are. But I mean, in addition to, you know, like there's people who don't necessarily like, they're silver and they're happy, you know.
It's not about where you are. It's more about like again, it's attitude. Like age makes a difference too, and things like that. Like I mean, I would not be able to recommend how to build an HG or an open division team and what the recipe for that is. But if you want to have fun in the game and feel like because the fun part of this game is developing your skill. It doesn't matter if developing your skill doesn't take you to HGC or something. Like you can just develop from platinum or from silver to gold. Like you have to find people that you can gel with, and then be patient if they don't play to your expectation, knowing that they're a good person and you're enjoying playing with them. Like that's the thing. I mean, easily any one of us at a higher skill level in this group could be like, I just can't play with a person who doesn't do X. I like them, but I'm like raging right now. Yeah. And some people can't hold in that rage, and that's a deal breaker for some people in teams, and that's an expected behavior in different kinds of teams. And that's more what I'm getting at, is that you do have to find the right mix of people for you too. And then I like that we're committed to playing. The biggest part of our improvement is that we show up and practice our muscles for 3 hours a week, which seems like nothing and you don't notice it week to week, but after a year, some days we're just really on point and we're like laughing and not even paying attention. And you can see the things that we've learned over the year in the games, I think, if you compare them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well said.
So.
Well, this comes to the end, and this was awesome. And we call it Podcasters League for a reason, because everyone here is on various podcasts. I guess I'll pass it to Scott first, since you run the shows over there.
Sure. Well, you can find me and Beau and John on a little show called Core, which we record on Wednesdays. Did one last night, so there's a fresh one up there right now. You can find it at heroesforyou.com or on the frogpants.com site. And we we hope we're a nice compliment, actually, to what ITN does. We end up talking about things, I think, from a different angle. And between the two shows, I feel like it's just about all you'd ever need. Take that, Ryan Reeder, and you bunch of buttholes. Anyway. Just
podcast drama.
Shades been thrown.
They're fine.
Wait, are they on Thursdays now?
I have to bleep that out.
But anyway, I kid. Yeah, you can find that and a ton of other content that we do over there at frogpants.com if you're interested in World of Warcraft, other video games. It's definitely something we do. And thank you so much for having me on. This was a huge pleasure for me.
Awesome. John, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Core on the internet at John_Jagger. I'll tell you where I'll be. Mostly. I'll usually tell. And you know what? Let's talk about it. There will be dungeons.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's a show that all of us are on. So if you were like, hey, I like this 5-stack. Well, what if this 5-stack played D&D? So that's another show worth checking out. More information about that at therewillbedungeons.com.
And our lovely dungeon master, Beau Schwartz.
You've covered it all. There's a Core.
We left Beau with nothing.
The Core is the Heroes of the Storm show. You should check it out. It's the only one where people describe it as being unusual and funny. So that's what you'll get there. Everything's like they talked about esports or they did the strategy, and well, this one was funny. They talked about Jaina's shoes. It is good. I promise you. Go listen. And then there will be dungeons. We play D&D. It's super fun. And I do another show called Good Bad or Bullshit, goodbadbull.com, where me and my friends mostly just argue, and it gets awkward. But that's the show.
Now, don't leave people hanging. Where can people tweet you convection builds?
At Beau Schwartz, Beau, and then last name SCHWARTZ, like Spaceballs. It's the Schwartz that's with you. Tweet me there. Tell me how bad I am of a player for taking convection. I will take all of your tears and turn it into a phylactery.
Gross.
Kristen, where can you be found online?
You can find me at _Kristen Ashton_ in the mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Thursday. I'm with you. Lots of hero stuff. Seeing Eye, chat reader.
Reading Eye Human.
Reading Eye Human at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. And then every other Sunday, Jeff Reynolds from Heroes Forge, who's now with Blizzard. We are doing Talking Pictures Alliance, where we talk about movies. And coming up this Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific, we're talking The Departed.
The Departed. I love that movie.
So good.
Yeah. Get your F-bomb counter going. Get it ready. That one's a beast.
When Garrett's here, you can find him at Garrett Art. He'll be back next week. He was on vacation in Key West. I can be found at KyleFerguson.com. You can find links to twitch.tv/KyleFerguson. Find me on Twitter at KyleFerguson. 2 S's in Ferguson. You'll probably find me. ITN is supported by the badass patrons. Thank you to everyone who supports us over at patreon.com/ITN. We want to thank yet again. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm a patron.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. On behalf of all the listenership, thank you for your
Well,
great
this week
show.
we'd like to thank Gorath, as well as our new producer, Pythagos, and Declan H. and Cheesy Bob. You can find all these shows over at amovetv. The show normally records Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, right here at twitch.tv/amovetv. This was a special show. We'll see you next week. Thank you again to my guests and my fabulous team. Can't wait for There Be Dungeons this weekend. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
That was fantastic.